Last week I played Cocoon. If you haven't checked that video out, please do. But we're going to keep that train of weird little indie games that have been on my tube playlist for quite a while going with the Artful Escape. So other than being little indie games, what do these have in common? Well, they were both published by Annapurna. And just spoilers here, we're going to be doing another game next week by Annapurna, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. Just a little trilogy of some neat little games here. This game is just unbelievably beautiful. An example of that on the home screen. The music caught me off guard. Here's an example of that right now.
And the sweet rose of pines lost in your winter night.
Yeah, really caught me off guard there. Was not expecting something so unique right off the bat. And that was folk music. It's not all going to be folk music. There is a twist that happens pretty early on here, but we'll get into that when we get into it. The Artful Escape is an absolutely beautiful game about self-discovery, and we'll get to meet some of the characters, and there is some absolutely amazing voice acting in this game with some faces that you'll probably recognize, and we'll get into it as we go along here. I hope you enjoy The Artful Escape. The game begins with a zoom in on our character, who is trying to play a couple different folk songs, but he just can't seem to get the feeling of them right for some reason. But once our character steps back and begins to play some space rock music, which is his preferred genre it would seem, we begin to get a little bit more into it. Here's a taste of that now. But when we turn around, we find that we're no longer alone on this isolated cliff. We've been snuck up on by someone who is dressing absolutely nothing like us, and that's pretty intriguing, actually. Now, this conversation with the stranger actually helps to tell us a little bit more information about our character compared to the new stranger. We learn that we are a folk musician who is just about to play our first real concert, but something just doesn't feel quite right about our music. This conversation also teaches us about one of the mechanics of this game, where when we're having conversations, we get these kind of splitting path options we can select, and most of the time these don't really make much of a difference, but you can get some neat little dialogue by trying out different things. The stranger also asks us to help her commit a crime, and naturally, because she's the first girl we've met in this new video game, we have to do exactly what she wants. We also learn that the stranger's name is Violetta, which is very convenient for me because now I can stop calling her the stranger. As she says, there's nothing strange about her at all. One of the other big mechanics of this game are on display right here. Basically, you do the lightest of light parkour, and you run in a straight line either left or right across the screen. Now there's going to be a lot of these sections, so I'm not really going to show most of them, and it happens very frequently. This is probably the weakest part of the game, and I'm probably going to complain about it later, but you do get to see some of these cool scenery effects, so that's kind of neat. As we approach a little stage area to help Violetta steal whatever it is she's looking for, we find a stage that has the message Johnson Vendetti's nephew, Francis Vendetti, after party. So, we're Francis, we are some guy named Johnson Vendetti's nephew, and for some reason his name is in much bigger text than ours. That's pretty interesting. So we play some music on the stage to help her figure out how to find some tuning valves or something. I don't really know what this part's about, but we play some music on the stage. We make a quick getaway after our devious robbery to the top of a tree, and we really get into some of the deep stuff now. We have been left in the shadow by a folk legend in the form of our uncle, Johnson Vendetti, and that's where this struggle with music is coming from. But Violetta has a solution. She tells us maybe we should consider being someone else entirely, because we're not really happy with that folk personality, but it's who we feel like we need to be. But that's just something to think about. Violetta tells us she's gotta go, and we should find a place named Lightman's if we want to see her again, which we've never heard of in this town. After Violetta makes her exit, we get to see this absolutely stunning opening cutscene, where we see another one of the posters up close with the small picture of us and the giant picture of our uncle, and we also get introduced to the cast of this game. Some great, really talented people such as Lena Headey, Jason Schwartzman, and Mark Strong are all featured heavily in this game, so that's a pretty good cast. As the opening cutscene is coming to a close, we see that this game is taking place in Calypso, Colorado, and we see just how important our uncle was. He seems to have passed away, and he's so important he's on the billboard for the town. The next part of the game is quite short, actually. It consists of us walking through the streets of Calypso and talking to people that are hanging out around the town. There are quite a few of these people, but none of them, it's really just background stuff that they're giving us. There's nothing super important to the story being said in these little conversations. You could walk straight past them, but a short game like this, you're really in it for this kind of world building stuff. The other thing we learn about as we move through the town is that our show is sold out, which is great, right? Except maybe not. It seems like Calypso is a dying town. Speaking to the business owners, it seems like a lot of people are moving away, and lots of people have come back for this performance, which is kind of cool, except we're not a folk singer, and, you know, we kind of have to reckon with that fact because we're performing tomorrow night. What can you do? Eventually, we make it all the way through the town back to our home, which happens to be on the furthest possible corner of the town. Makes a lot of sense, which is where we earn our first achievement, Made It Home. So once we get into the house, we get to talk to our mom, who is, you know, just a normal background character, doesn't really say much of note. So after getting home, we head on up to our room with all these cool, kinda psychedelic type artwork and drawings and things around. And we decide the best way to relax is to throw on some nice tunes and drift off to sleep before our big show tomorrow night. But what was going to be a normal, relaxing night turns out to be a little bit more than that. We see another flash of the billboard and see that all the lights around the town are beginning to flicker off, and right after that we see a purple light crash into the woods. Whatever could that be? Wherever could a mysterious figure that crash lands in the woods near our sleepy little town go, other than straight to the front door of our protagonist? So we get introduced to this weird, gothic brain stem creature who goes by the name of Zom. So Zom is something of a stage manager, and the opening act for some big concert has just bailed on them at the last minute, so they need a replacement, and the leader of this band has asked for us by name. And who's the leader of this band, except for a guy named Lightman? And with the exception of the brainstem on legs, we get our first introduction to the kind of magical elements of this game here. Our pajamas get transformed into this sick cyberpunky outfit, and then we get a cool guitar that drops down into our hands, and we can actually play it to light up the streets of Calypso that went dark when the ship crash landed. Naturally, now that we have this light-bringing magical guitar with us, we run through the streets playing it and lighting up all of the buildings that have been dimmed, which earns us achievement number 2 of this game lighted up for hitting every single light source that we possibly could on our way. And as we meet up with Zom back in the town square area, we get our first introduction to the man himself, Lightman. Lightman comes down in this beam of light, absolutely shredding this guitar, and Lightman is played by Carl Weathers in an absolutely amazing performance. What a voice. So once we get to talk to the man himself, Lightman gives us his very own offer to join him and be his opening act in a grand trip to this big show that he's putting on. And it's immediately shown that Lightman has such good judgment because now he gets to introduce us to the main mechanic of this game other than the running, which is playing music on your guitar with the face buttons of your controller. So this is kind of cool. You don't have to follow the rhythm exactly, you just have to press the keys, which is nice for someone like me who is bad at rhythm games. We start to realize that today isn't going to be just a regular old field trip when Lightman tells us that we're about to pass through a door and enter the cosmic extraordinary, which is different for everybody, so he can't really prep us for it exactly. As the door creaks open, we earn achievement number 3, The Journey Begins, for leaving Lightman's workshop, just as we get absolutely flashbanged by this opening door, and we pass through it. Passing through the door leads to this absolutely beautiful pink and blue cloudscape area, which happens to look a lot like the art in our bedroom. How interesting is that? And cue the normal gameplay loop of this game, where we enter a new area and immediately run to the right while we play the guitar and enjoy the beautiful sights in the background, as this is kind of how the story gets told in this game. Just like autoplay, we go absolutely as far right as we can go, and then we come across a deity who happens to have a face resembling the face buttons of a controller, who offers to give us a new name in this world. And, of course, when the opportunity presents itself, I must be called the Wild Hog. The entity hits us with a beam of light and teleports us to a new area that we will be visiting quite a lot in this game, called the Cosmic Lung. So the Cosmic Lung is kind of Lightman's ship that he pilots around the galaxy that broadcasts all of his great shows that he loves, and we meet Zom as we pop in. So the Lung features a lot of things, such as a gigantic theater, a sick dance party, Lightman's special office garden where I was supposed to trigger a cutscene, but for some reason it bugged here. This is the only bug I experienced while playing this game, but it's very weird how it let me move around, and it locked me into the cutscene, but I couldn't do anything. It's very strange. And after a quick restart, we find Violetta's workshop as well, and we happen to overhear a conversation that seems like it's pertaining to us and might be in our interest to listen in on. We overhear that Lightman is planning to send us to some place called the Heliotroms. And after we barge in, Lightman tells us that what we're going to be doing is really putting on a show for the people that have come to see it. We're going to go out onto this planet, explore around, absolutely shred on the guitar, and people are going to love it, and then they will celebrate us as the stars that we are. So we reconvene with Lightman on the deck, and it's time to take off. So after a quick warp process that's so fast we don't even really see it, we pop out of a cave and we are here on the Heliotroms. But we aren't totally abandoned to figure out what our journey is here, because Violetta pops in with her lasers to tell us that we're looking for someone named Star Gordon to bring us back to the Lung, but we need to get through his agent first. So the loop of running to the right continues on this planet as well. I'm going to keep showing at least a little segment of each planet, because they do look pretty cool, but there's nothing really super important gameplay-wise happening in this running segment. This area also introduces us to the amp pad, which allows us to call down some of Violetta's lasers to put on a good show, which can open up paths and stuff for us, but not super important from a viewer perspective. It's more progression stuff. We also learned through exploring this planet that the reason Lightman is so famous throughout this galaxy is that he is the only person to successfully perform with the Glamour Gun. Now, we don't really know what the Glamour Gun is, but it'll probably be important for the story later, right? We wake up and dazzle this creature, blocking the path to Star Gordon with a wonderful performance, and he's so impressed with us that he just lets us go right on by. And after we get past him, we can meet with this absolutely insane looking creature who just happens to be the man of the hour, Star Gordon himself. So like most games, each of the area bosses has a thing, right? So Star Gordon's thing is this cool TV set late night talk show sort of thing that we're basically just talking to him and he asks us questions and it gives us a couple answers we can give. They're not really answers. We're making things up, but these people don't know us. We're new to the galaxy, so we can really be whoever it is that we want to be, which is an interesting concept when you consider what's going on in our real life. Our meeting with Star Gordon gives us a lot to think about, and that's good because we'll have a lot of time to do that. He tells us the way back to the Cosmic Lung is in the lake, and we'll walk over to the lake now. So as we approach the lake, we see that the creature Star Gordon was talking about is here and he's ready to party. He's this big purple monster. He's like Grimace. He's basically just like Grimace from the McDonald's. And it's up to us to put on another absolutely dazzling show to earn our keep and get our place back in the Cosmic Lung. As we play, we learn that Grimace is less of a sea creature actually and more like a moth. The more you know, huh? And for our great job that we do, we earn achievement number 4, complete the heliotroms for thrilling this lake beast and getting our way back. In fact, Grimace is so impressed with us, he offers us to step into this light to be broadcast to everyone within the known universe. And though McDonald's has so many locations and this would be a pretty sick gig, we can't accept. We're really afraid of anybody in Calypso seeing what we're doing right now, being this goofy character instead of the serious folk singer they want us to be. And this creature isn't happy, but he does at least send us back to the Cosmic Lung in one piece with, less successful results than we might have hoped going in. When we return to the main theater, we see that Lightman's show is going very well. The people are quite thrilled with him. But in the side theater, we do notice there are some hog heads there as well, aren't there, folks? Getting quite popular in this market. But unfortunately, not everybody is as big a fan. Violetta is a little upset with us for turning down that offer because her lasers would have been broadcast across the universe as well. We give our explanation, which doesn't really seem to calm her down too much. And then we move on to needing to defend ourselves from Lightman. And he asks a great question. If we don't want any attention, why are we playing the guitar? Why are we up there at all? And that's another great thing for us to think about. And Francis responds with the exact same thing that we would have probably expected. The town has all of their hopes caught up in Francis Vendetti, Johnson Vendetti's nephew, coming back to save everything, but it's just not there. It's not right. But the show must go on. Our conversation gets interrupted when we need to take off for the second act of the show. So same old deal here, just like the first planet, we see some lasers shoot out of a cave area and out we walk on this new planet. But not to fear, hologram Violetta is here to tell us this time we're looking for the Lumiere Violente, some jazz club somewhere on this planet. We get some directions from a very helpful fish creature, and we find our way into the club where we can show off our talents for the club's stage manager. So Violetta told us that if we impressed this coral creature thing, they would give us a ride back to the Cosmic Lung. But it seems like that's not an option because they used to use a turtle, but the turtle doesn't live here anymore, so they can't do it. But he can at least give us the last remaining ticket to ride the turtle if we can make our way into the beige city nearby and find the turtle to take us back. So naturally, we need to find our way back home, so we make our way inside this city of beige the creature was telling us about, but what looked like a hustling, bustling city actually seems pretty empty and bare and, I guess, just beige. But for as empty as the city is, we do manage to run into one character who offers to give us a ride to the place where they're keeping the turtle now. So she picks us up in her absolutely awesome looking wacky ship, and we take off towards the city. We also learned she's a fashionista, and we're heading towards a planet full of people very into fashion, and with drip like ours, there's no way we'll fit in, so we've got to change that. So now, kinda towards the end of the game, we get access to the character customization. So there's no balding option, unfortunately, but there are a load of options, so I couldn't do my normal George Costanza, but I just kind of make a general character, I guess. I didn't want to change his hair in the end model because I felt it made him look too different, but we do get some pretty rockin' threads here for the Wild Hog. And as we come out of our character customization screen, we earn the achievement New Threads for creating a custom outfit. But before we can land the ship in the new city, we get a transmission from Hologram Lightman, who tells us that it seems like he's been fired from the role of captain at the Cosmic Lung, and it's our fault. Our performances were so good that now we're the captain, and we're not ready for that at all, so now our efforts to get back to the Cosmic Lung are redoubled. We need to get back there and sort this whole thing out. We make it to the city and present our ticket for the turtle, but the guards turn us down. We're now in a city that's based on laws and codes and fitting in with the norm, so naturally we do what anyone would. We run through the city shredding our guitar in our insane outfit and making everybody take notice of us. So naturally we get caught by the High Inquisitor of this city, and he is not too happy with us. He's just about to take us into jail, when out of nowhere we see the ship that we rode into town on crash into the High Inquisitor, buying us a little bit of time to run and find this turtle one more time. So we continue our run through the city, finally making our way to the turtle, and it's time for this high officer to meet us face to holographic face and give us one final offer. He tells us that we can feel free to board the turtle and take it back to where we want to go, but as soon as we get outside the city limits, he's coming for us. So, you know what we're gonna do, let's ride. So this is this boss's special area, kinda level thing, and it's very sick, where we're playing the turtle to speed him up, and he's racing on his big ship, and it's just a pretty sick sequence as you can see here. But of course the turtle is faster than the hare, and we manage to outrun the High Inquisitor and drift off into space where we can warp back to the Cosmic Lung and earn achievement number 6 for completing Glimmer Dim. So now back in the Cosmic Lung, we see that Lightman has been removed from the main theater, and we are there absolutely jamming out. So we move past the theater and go to meet with Lightman, who seems to be in good spirits. In fact, he offers to be our supporting act on our final show of the tour, and he does have one request though. He would like to pick the stage we're going to perform at. But while having a side conversation with Violetta, we see that Lightman has actually chosen to send us to the Hyperion Whale Zone, home of the Glamourgon. So if you don't remember, the Glamourgon's that all-powerful beast that Lightman defeated to get his groove in the first place. So Lightman's kind of betrayed us in favor of himself here. But it's not as simple as correcting the course of the ship, as we need to go out and thrill that Glamourgon with our performance, otherwise everyone on the ship will be consumed by the Glamourgon's power. Now we can do one final warp out of the Cosmic Lung to go take on the Glamourgon. After we land, Violetta tells us that she doesn't believe in miracles, but she might believe in Hog, which is just a fantastic line. We meet up with holographic Lightman, and he tells us that he's planning on not really needing us. He's going to go out there and wow the Glamourgon once again with his star power, and this will all work out for everybody. Here we also earn achievement number 7, Amp Jammer, for landing on and completing the task of all of the amp pads. Wouldn't have even mentioned these if it wasn't for this achievement, to be honest. And after that, we continue running through the planet. This is another insanely cool looking area that you're pretty much just running through, but it does look very, very cool at the least. And after we get through that running section, we meet back up with Zom, who tells us Lightman's performance was reviewed as fine, which is okay, but not quite enough to wow the Glamourgon. So it's up to us again. So Lightman really stunk up the stage out there, and what's the best way to make an entrance after a horrible intro sequence? Well, we run through a town and wake up a giant jellyfish thing that we can ride in to impress the Glamourgon and the Glamourgon's booker. It's not enough to just impress the Glamourgon. In fact, to even get to the Glamourgon, we need to impress the Tastemaker. And who is the Tastemaker but the giant deity we met when we first entered the Cosmic Beyond? And, well, maybe we haven't quite impressed her enough yet. But just as we're getting to the good part, we get the big reveal. This deity didn't know that our uncle is Johnson Vendetti, but she does seem to know the name, which is very interesting, and Lightman does too. Previously, we asked Lightman if we were only chosen to be his opening act because we were Johnson Vendetti's nephew, but Lightman said he didn't know who that was. But now we get the big reveal that Lightman wasn't alone facing down the Glamourgon. He was actually the opening act for our uncle, Johnson Vendetti. And now, this is our moment. We can no longer stand in the shadow of Johnson Vendetti. If we want to face down the Glamourgon, it has to be us. We need to play the music that we feel in our heart. And it's absolutely go time. We rise up onto the biggest, grandest stage that we've had, with the biggest in-person audience we've ever seen in this game, with the most magnificent light show, and we call down the Glamourgon for our final showdown. And this boss level is really not too much different from the other levels. We're just following the same basic pattern. They're a little bit faster this time, but you know, when you don't need to like keep a rhythm or anything, just following a pattern is pretty simple, but it does look absolutely gorgeous. So after our final big performance, we get to come face to face with the Glamourgon, and they are absolutely pleased. We have become the second ever person to thrill the Glamourgon, and we did it with the music that was inside our heart instead of trying to replicate our uncle's music. But it wasn't our music that was so impressive. It was actually the laser show that we put on that was more interesting for the Glamourgon. So what we thought was going to be our big moment is actually Violetta's big moment. She finally takes to the stage. She hid away in the engineering room before, but now she goes face to face with the Glamourgon. Impressing the Glamourgon also earns us achievement number 8, Complete Hyperion, for defeating the Glamourgon. For being the second person ever to thrill the Glamourgon, we must get a pretty cool prize, right? And we do. It's this new car that we take off into the galaxy with Violetta, and we talk about what she's going to do now that she has become a universal celebrity. But Violetta's a rolling stone, and she drops us off back at Calypso while she's going to take off back out into space. But they do set up maybe the possibility of Violetta coming back in a sequel, perhaps? We thought defeating the Glamourgon was going to be our final send-off, but we have one more concert yet to do. We show up at the after party back in Calypso, and it's time to absolutely shred with the new techniques we've learned, not with those old folk music techniques that we were stealing from our uncle before. And surprisingly enough, the people seem to love this new music that we're putting on. Everybody is really jamming, so much so that they give us achievement number 9, Guitar Legend, for completing the game. And so that's the end of the game. We are thrilling the people of Calypso with our new music and our fancy laser show, and that's the end. But we do have a couple more things we need to check out. We have 3 achievements remaining, and again, they're all going to be pretty easy, so we can bang through these in just a couple minutes here. Back in the area with the big jellyfish, we do some fancy parkour that I completely missed the first time around, and I don't know why you would see this, but you actually can do a big jump up to the top of a cliff and earn the achievement How'd You Get Up There. Our penultimate achievement is called Stage Fright, where we need to be in the middle of a jam session and remain completely motionless for 3 minutes. So, where's naturally the best place to do that? In our big final showdown with the Glamourgon, with all the pressure off of us now that we know how the story ends. And our final achievement of this game is called Snowman. We need to do a little jam session with a snowman in the snow area. I actually saw this guy the first time I passed through this level, but I didn't really think anything of it, but turns out there was an achievement here. Pretty cool. So how did we do? We took 4.3 hours to beat the Artful Escape, with howlongtobeat.com listing it at about 4.5 hours to 100%, so we're pretty much dead on there. We did it a little bit faster, but you know, that's like 10 minutes, who cares? So overall review of this game, I think that it's really cool that this game exists. It's definitely very trippy. A lot of the characters that you meet are cool, obviously fantastic voice acting. You didn't get to hear much of that for yourself in this video, but hey, maybe that's a reason to check out the game yourself. But there are, you know, some complaints that I have. The running segments in some places were quite long, and it really did feel like just a way to pad out some of the story. In some places, it was pretty cool when you were playing the instruments and things were lighting up and the environment was changing around you, because really the visuals of the game are the strongest point of it, other than the music, I suppose. But the long segments where you're just running in a direction doing like some pretty easy parkour, you know, I could do without. I can play another platformer for that sort of thing. But I think overall this game was pretty fun. I think it sits around like a 7 out of 10 on most review sites, which is probably where I would put it as well. Maybe cut out some of those more boring sections as far as, you know, my opinion goes, but other than that, I think the game was pretty good, and I hope you enjoyed it too, and I hope you enjoy whatever the game is we play next week here on the channel. Thanks so much for watching. See ya!